Well, welcome to CEI's annual dinner. Thank you for supporting the evening's festivities, and I am very pleased to announce that we have once again set a new record in total dinner revenue, and for the third year we are well over $1 million. So thank you to everybody who is helping with that. Now that the business part is over, let the fun begin. Recently, the New York Times, big distinction. Front page story about us began, and I quote, "In the orbit of Washington think tanks, the Competitive Enterprise Institute is an obscure name with a modest budget." Modest budget, hell yes. It can increase with help, just saying. Obscure it's just kind of funny, actually. I'm standing here. I wish the Times editors could sort of stand where I am now, looking out at over 900 souls celebrating our work. We're so obscure we had a rather lengthy waiting list to get in. And I thank you. I wish I could talk to the heads of the EPA, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, the IRS, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the NSA, the Justice Department, the IRS. They're all a little pissed off at us, actually, for probing, prodding, and publicly questioning. It's pretty good for a particularly obscure organization, I think. And let's not forget how we're keeping a certain group of black-robed justices busy with the teeny little case called King v. Burwell, where a victory for our plaintiffs opens up opportunities for real healthcare reform that we haven't seen in years. So for me, if that's the work of an obscure think tank, whatever happens when we actually come out of the closet. So now let me tell you one thing that CEI will not be doing in the short or long term, and that is trying to sort of guess what the future may be. In contrast, perhaps, with NOAA, who did a study this past spring comparing Punxsutawney Phil's ability to predict the weather, because they do it so much better. And the way they sort of ended their study was a groundhog is just a groundhog. In Washington, that's actually a rather significant revelation. Because, see, we Americans have a thing about getting the future right. We like to roll the dice and like to benefit from sort of our predictions. And we even promote shows where dogs and cats try to make a decision about the Super Bowl. And this is all good fun, especially when private citizens do it. But when government sets out to create regulations sort of based on their crystal ball predictions, it's oftentimes we citizens who pay a fairly heavy price. And unfortunately, they do this all the time. They hinder production of affordable energy in trying to prevent future climate change. They limit access to life-saving drugs because of potential side effects. They restrict access to capital and cast a wide net of potential fraud. And they prevent the use of certain chemicals that are very beneficial. I mean, sure, you and I will use bleach to sweep out our bathroom, but I don't think I need the government telling me not to gargle it. A few months ago, various police organizations, I love this, tried to pressure Google to change the Waze traffic app because they were afraid that it would tell criminals that there were policemen nearby. And I thought, we used to worry about guns when you go rob a bank, but hey, if it's now a smartphone, So it's watching our friends in government get scared of the uncertainty of the future is quite entertaining. The curious task of economics, said F.A. Hayek, is to demonstrate to men how little they really know about what they can imagine. Yet trying to design a risk-free world occupies much of our lawmakers' time. And like the fears about Waze, their efforts aim at actions that haven't even happened yet. And yes, both Republicans and Democrats do it. As G.K. Chesterton said, the whole modern world is divided into progressives and conservatives. The business of progressives is to go on making mistakes. The business of conservatives is to prevent those same mistakes from being corrected. Sorry. At the end of the day, too many Washington policymakers sort of lack the patience, the understanding, and the humility that sees wisdom in acknowledging the unknown. And instead of weighing the trade-offs, they succumb to the tyranny of the urgent, and they enact rules and laws that waste our labors in the name of eliminating uncertainty, or even worse, just trying to take care of us. And it wasn't always this way. We did live once in a society that seemed to recognize the unknown and, as a result, simply encouraged innovation and entrepreneurship to account for it. 30 plus years ago, Sam Walton was expanding a little retail store throughout the Southeast. Apple and Microsoft were beginning to team up to create a Macintosh computer. Antitrust laws were being reformed, and deregulation of industries was having its benefits, and we frankly continue to benefit from these things even today. But now politics has moved a bit away from CEI's ideals, and I know many of yours, respecting human beings to order their own affairs, relying on human ingenuity, rewarding success and learning from failure, putting our faith in reason, promoting limited government, and the rule of law. Instead, we now have a government that says we're too stupid to buy insurance or obtain a mortgage. We're too impulsive to go to a restaurant and order a particular portion size, and we're too reckless to let our children walk home alone or play at the park alone. We even have capitalists who hate capitalism, but don't let me ruin Ben & Jerry's for you. You know, in 1984, the highest grossing movie was Ghostbusters. If you were here last year, you'd see a nod to that. And the villain in Ghostbusters was an EPA official. I mean, imagine the world's most popular movie in the entire planet, and a regulator was a bad guy. I want that world back. CEI works to get that world back, even though we acknowledge and we look forward to prosperity and innovation that we can certainly not even imagine today. So, people, let's get a move on. I know certainly CEI will stick to our free enterprise principles and our ideals, and we will ensure our friends and allies do the same. We will fill the intellectual gaps in public conversations. We will forge alliances with any bedfellow who comes along. And we will advocate aggressively in the media, among lawmakers, and in state capitals, and we will empower everyday citizens to fight back. We even have a few more court cases up our sleeves. And speaking of court cases, did I mention one earlier? These next 2 weeks are going to be very interesting, won't they? Supreme Court decisions affecting gay marriage and Obamacare's future possibly on the same day. You know, in hindsight, I probably should have tried to approach our healthcare case differently, and maybe we should have tried to find a lesbian couple in the 4th District of Virginia who couldn't get married because of the costs of the Obamacare individual mandate. We could have wrapped up the whole thing in one case and saved a lot of people a lot of time and a lot of money. Now, I should note there are a couple people here who have been invaluable to us with this IRS subsidy challenge. Mike Carvin and Rich Weinstein. They're here someplace. Now, Mike, as you know, led the team who argued the case before the Supreme Court this last March. And Rich, as you may not know, we're going to call the Columbus of Jonathan Gruber land. The guy who originally discovered the infamous Gruber video that CEI then made go viral. Now, I actually invited Professor Gruber to come to the dinner tonight. I did. Why not? He politely said no, and which is really too bad because I wanted to seat him at Mike and Rich and Sam Kasman's table and just watch the conversations unfold, but maybe we'll have a chance later. So here's to another year of CEI fighting economic liberty and the human spirit. And speaking of spirit, or speaking of spirits, you may notice that bottle in front of you at the table, which you should not drink because it does not contain the life-saving alcohol that is there, is for us the symbol of the greatest product of freedom, whiskey, because it is. And if you're wondering, however, how we managed to get almost 90 bottles empty, suffice it to say, we sacrifice our liver for liberty as much as we do our heads, our hearts, and our hands. So, and there are one or two of you out there that I will not mention that I am concerned about, which also explains why my voice is not where it should be. So, a little later, you're going to hear about a new movie we have coming out called I Whiskey, because it really does capture why we do believe that is the perfect metaphor for the human spirit. Before I sign off, remember that New York Times article calling us obscure? They're going to rue the day. The great lady did finally sort of concede at the end of the article, and they described us as a ceaseless advocate for small government and free markets that, to quote Steve Forbes, has played a critical role in preventing the world of the left's utopian nightmares from becoming reality. Excellent. Now that's an obscurity I happily live with. So with that in mind, and with a hint about the upcoming CEI dinner movie tonight, which I know most of you care a lot about, for very bad acting, but that's fine, we enjoy doing it, let me simply say to the reporters of the New York Times, the U.S. Supreme Court, the Congress, and a host of paternalistic federal agencies, make my day. Thank you, and enjoy the evening.